Hey guys, this is Devin Zander from Roseanne. We've got a bit of a different video for you this week. The other day, someone asked me for help on their webinar. Essentially, they were hired to write a webinar for a coach who's already doing very well. They want to redo their sales process. He asked me for feedback, and this was me breaking down their entire webinar, all their marketing, and telling them what I would do if I wanted to take this offer and make it super successful on cold traffic. So if you have an offer you want to take to cold traffic, make sure you watch the video and enjoy. See you guys later.
So this is not necessarily a webinar for me, it's for a client to give you an idea of his business. He has a mastermind where he has like a six-figure level and a seven-figure level. And his whole concept, there's a little bit of kind of woo-woo in a sense. He has this whole thing where men want to become kings, and he kind of alludes that business to becoming a king. And he wants to turn all these kind of six-figure people who he deems knights into kings and build a kingdom. So he makes a lot of these like parallels to that. And the mastermind is called Becoming a King. So basically, what we're trying to do is get more six-figure people into his mastermind. We've done call booking funnels, didn't really work that well. And I told him probably the reason why is because if somebody's running a mastermind, they need you to become an authority in their mind for them to even want to learn from you. So I pitched them on doing a webinar versus like a VSL because a VSL is probably not enough of like a human touch point. So a
Yeah.
webinar, he's able to kind of talk, maybe do like a hot seat, like kind of really feel the energy in the room. So yeah, that's kind of the idea for it. I've never really done a webinar before, but I have consumed like material on webinars, but I
Yeah.
haven't actually executed one myself. So I kind of have some points here, and this is a headline that Annan helped me come up with. But yeah, I would just love any maybe advice, feedback, or expertise from you from doing webinars
Yeah.
and maybe any mistakes that you're seeing, like, oh, dude, definitely don't do that, do this, XYZ, XYZ.
Well, it's interesting. The hardest part right here is how much is the mastermind selling for, right?
So it's I think he's changing up the offer. He's gonna make a 90-day kind of um I don't know what the term for it is, but kind of like a 90-day kind of sprint group that he will then try to pitch into the full-time thing. I think that's gonna be like 6K or something, 5 or 6K.
Yeah. Yeah, because like the hard thing, right, is that when you're going after six-figure offer owners that are male exclusively, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're just getting yourself into a smaller pool. So these are the things that's just like the main thing that needs to be considered, right? Because look, if you do a book
Yeah.
a call funnel, typically you're selling a $6,000 offer. And
Right.
when you're selling that, it's usually that's an entry level offer to a really broad audience. Okay. And now you're running into the issue, your guys' issue here is that you're trying to run to the $6,000 offer to that narrow audience, which
Mhm.
is like it is going to be a little bit tough. And I agree with a lot of the points that you said, where people do need to be seeing you as an authority. And there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I think someone who does it really well right now, because I think their offer is $18,000, and they're selling to. It just kind of reminds me of your guys' situation. But Cole Gordon selling to like business owners that are at six figures or seven figures and they want to scale, right?
Mhm.
So that right there, they're charging, I believe, 18,000. So I'm curious, like, what was it with the booker call funnels that didn't work? Is it that nobody was booking calls, or was it that it was just hard to make profitable?
Right. Okay. Great question. So I think also to kind of touching on Cole Gordon's point is that he could work with most, if not all, business owners in like a really, it's almost like a more broad offer because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
salespeople and things like that. Where this guy's more of like a mastermind, which is already a little bit less mass appeal. Um, to run you through what we did before, basically we ran traffic to kind of a more longer form page. We got some calls, but it was like 200, 230, 250. I thought that was pretty good for like a
That,
six-figure, seven-figure guy.
that's
But
really good.
he was like, yo, this is not let me see if I can actually find it because I made the page becoming it's like becoming it was like this long form page, like a video, whatever, 250. But he was like, yo, like it's too expensive. I want to be able to scale this. Can we get this lower? So he came up with this idea to pretty much, it was actually a pretty smart idea. So on LinkedIn, what he's doing is he's messaging all these business owners and he's pretty much offering them to come on his podcast. It's almost like this thing where he tries to come in almost like a Trojan horse, where it's like, hey, come on the podcast. I'd love for you to share everything like you know about building a massive business. And then basically before the podcast, he has like a 5-10 minute conversation with them where he kind of pre-frames, hey, here's what this is about. Here's why I'm doing this. This is for my community. And then during that process, a lot of people ask him, hey, dude, tell me more about this mastermind, by the way, that you mentioned earlier. And he was able to close a ton of people that way. So on
that's
Code
so funny.
Ads,
That's
yeah,
exactly what we're doing at Roseanne for our SMS marketing. We're starting to invite guests on the Rowdy Boys to share their shit. Like we're looking for people who are crushing it with webinars, so we can talk to them about what we're doing a little bit on the podcast, and then sell them on using our solution. So great minds.
It works.
That definitely works. Yeah,
it works, and we were doing that. And then basically, bro, it was crushing. I created a page. We're sending traffic there. We were getting book calls, dudes, for like $50. Like it was freaking nuts. But then, and maybe this is on my part. I needed to educate him a little bit more. He was like, "Hey, bro, a lot of the people opting in and booking calls weren't six-figure entrepreneurs. They were rappers, musicians, things like that." And it wasn't even that big of an amount, but he said like they were getting a lot of it. So then basically I changed the ads to then qualify, hey, if you're 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur only, and that kind of tanked everything. The cost per lead got crazy out of there. And I tried to tell him, yo, we should go back to the original ads. Yes, there might be some people that are not going to be a good fit, but that's just the name of the game, and it's a numbers game, and just cancel those calls. But then he was kind of like, let's kind of put things on pause. And then for us to kind of circle back, and this is what we're circle back on, which is doing the webinar. He wants to go more in this direction. He doesn't really want to push that podcast anymore on Code Ads. He's like, okay, maybe if we do a webinar where I'm teaching, spitting fire, more people would want to join. So that's the gist there.
I'm having like a lot of thoughts about it. I think that there's like certain things before you guys even get super into the webinar that you need to figure out, because like I think that the old funnel for your guys' goals actually might be a little bit better, because it could be really hard to get, we have to consider someone who's running a 6 or 7-figure business. You're asking them to sit down and watch like a 2-hour thing, right? Is it a live webinar, or is it like an evergreen?
I was thinking doing live.
Yeah. So in that case, it might be a little bit better then, but it's still like, I think that you're right about the call funnel. And I know like this probably isn't helpful for you, because it's like the client wants what the client wants, right?
Right.
But
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, is there any way you can help change their expectations? Because it's like, dude, 250 for calls are really good, and it's really easy to filter out bad calls, right? You just have a question like, hey, which one of these best describes you? Founder, CEO, CMO, VP, blah, 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 or other. And then, hey, what's your business's current revenue range, right? And then if it's not within the acceptable numbers, you just auto cancel the call, right? But regarding the webinar, then, since it's what you're kind of like stuck with anyways, I mean, I'm curious. What I personally think that it will get even less qualified calls, but it also,
I think so. Okay.
well, I don't know. It's like he's going to be building up. Not necessarily. Okay, so you're going to get a lot more unqualified leads, I suppose I should say, and then, with the qualified calls, I guess as long as you're doing a good enough job on the webinar, only a person who is really fit would book a call, right? But it's interesting. We're actually doing a webinar similar to this right now, and I've yet to write one for a product like this. But what I have seen others do. So, are you familiar with like OMG machines? Yes.
Throwback. Yeah.
Yeah. So like with their webinar sequences where they're doing them live and they do them like over the course of 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions, and it's just like success story after success story after success story. And it's less like teaching, but it's more about the mastermind and the community itself. And you bring people within the mastermind out to talk. We talk about their transformation, and then you really are painting that hero's journey. Like you're making the attendees the champion by showing them what's possible and then like how we elevate them to that point, right? So it's a lot less of your traditional webinar where it's like 3 secrets. And instead it's their peers coming on live, sharing their experience, what has changed in their life. And you need to consider like all the different things that these business owners want, right? Because someone who has got a 6 or 7 figure business, they have like they have like tons of issues that they want solved. And, I don't really know what this product does, but it's like their free time, if they have kids, like they're spending time with their kids while also running the business and elevating their business to the next level. Just like managing employees, finding reliability, because I think something with most, it depends on this is probably going to vary between businesses, but until you hit like that 7-figure mark, business can be very unsustainable, where there's lots of ups and downs. Because if you're below 7 figures, you typically don't have like a reliable acquisition system. So, and then what you do is you bring in people. Each person had a different issue, right? So one person had the issue about not spending enough time with their family, and that's why they couldn't build their business to 7 figures or whatever, because they were trying to balance family and business. And then you bring the next person on who they were in a different place, and now their thing was elevated and the mastermind solved that. And you just keep cycling through, and it's trying to figure out like, because it's hard for me to know. Can you give me like more information on exactly what is the goal of the mastermind, right? And that's the issue with selling masterminds sometimes. And this is something I actually have in my own business too, that I've been learning, because we sell a $6,000 mastermind, and there's like no clearly defined outcome. The whole mastermind is that you get Matt and I to work with you in your business, but it's not like we're saying, okay, you're going to follow this blueprint. It's like, no, you're going to keep doing literally what you're already doing, except now you're going to have us like telling you what's wrong, what's right, and then helping you throughout. Right. But it's hard. We sell it pretty okay. It's like 25% close rate on calls.
That's not bad.
Yeah, but I think, for our list, I think like the industry rate is usually about like 10 to 15% higher than what we're doing. So then that's what I've been told by people.
Right.
I'd be curious to really see. That's what I've been told. And I think, really getting that clearly defined outcome in there helps so much. And that's something we're working on now. And that's kind of what I'm curious about with what you guys are doing. Like, what is the outcome? People come in, what do they expect, right? And then you're also selling to 6 and 7 figure business owners. Like, we also have to realize that is an astronomical difference. Look, 950,000, that's close. That's a close person to a 7-figure earner. But someone who's making $100,000 a year is entirely different, dude. Like, that is 10 times more money. That is a lot. That is the difference between 5 million and 50 million. Like, that is a huge gap. You know what I'm saying? So it's trying to understand like who the person really is that we're going after here. And I think that'll make it a little bit easier too. Because again, it's like a whole different set of problems, right? 6 to 7 figures and 7 to 8 is entirely different. These people are not on the same wavelength. They're not on the same frequency. Because, dude, I've been talking to people since we founded Roseanne. I've been talking to people in my industry that are at like $100,000, $200,000 a year, and I thought I would have a lot in common with them, except they have like less customers than me. But in reality, we have like nothing in common, and they view business entirely differently. And I just, so I don't know. There's just thoughts that are coming to my mind. Sorry, I know I talked a lot for a second there.
No, you're good, man. You're good. This is all like gold. I guess to circle back to answer your question, let me clarify. So for this specific webinar, it'd be only going after 6-figure people who want to go to 7. So I agree with you. There's different things in terms of what I guess the pain points from what he shared with me is that, like you said, they can't get enough quality, reliable leads consistently, right? To have that pipeline full. They're working way too much. They're stressed out. They don't have a team, so they need help pretty much firing
It's like
themselves
exactly
almost
what I
from
said.
yeah, basically, yeah. So that and I guess like the third part is like kind of being around, which is always like I hear this when people talk about masterminds. I just maybe don't resonate with that so much. Like being around like-minded men to talk about their problem. I don't know, like that's another pain point that he says that a lot of people come in with, where it's like, hey, like I'm alone on my journey. It's cool to be able to talk to other people who can resonate and we can bounce ideas off each other and X, Y, Z. So that's kind of like the value add. But you're right, there is no tangible outcome. Like
Yeah.
we were trying to come up
And
with like a guarantee, and it's like yeah, you can't promise them more money, you can't promise them more like referrals. Like it's hard to make it tangible. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
so I think that's like I guess to give you insight into what we're doing then is that we're just like creating
Okay.
a curriculum for it then too. So it's nothing's changing. Like the mastermind is the mastermind, right? But now we're adding I don't even know what to call them, but like tracks within the mastermind. So like, okay, certain store owners who join us, like they need different things than other store owners. Some their AOV is really bad, for instance. So it's like, okay, they take the AOV track. And some people are not good at CLTV. So we put them in the CLTV track. We teach them about SMS and we teach them about email and brand equity and connecting with customers. So I think it's like really maybe adding some sort of aspect like that to the product where it's like, okay,
It's like build your own adventure in a sense. Like
I don't think so. I think it's just like you have like, look, we're going to walk you through the 4 different things that, look, you get the mastermind, and that's the main thing. But look, as a bonus or something, I don't know if you want to do it as a bonus, however, but it's like we're going to give you the 4 things that every single business needs to get from 6 to 7 figures, and these are essentially like full courses. But look, from what we've seen in our experience, most business owners who are stuck at 6 figures are because of these things. And you list exactly what you just told me, and then you say, look, we're going to give you this track. And that's going to show if you're struggling to get a reliable lead system and your deal flow is trash and your setters never hit KPI or your closers never hit KPI, blah, blah, you get that. But like if you don't know how to if you're too busy in the business and you can't spend time with your family and you can't grow because there's only one of you and you only have 2 hands, then we're also giving you this, right? Which is this part right here. And that's going to teach you how to fire yourself from the business, start outsourcing, and how you can create SOPs within the next 30 days that will allow you to outsource your entire business and retain the level of quality that you have. Because that's something you might want to write down too. That's the biggest, like people aren't actually, like people can hire people. That's not what they're scared of. What every business owner is scared of is that the quality won't match what they have. That is why people don't hire, is because they're scared that quality will drop. And like you can even address the truth, right? Which is it 100% will drop, but you cannot grow your business with the rate that you're going at, right? So even though the quality drops a little bit, because you can do so much more, you're getting better results. Okay. And then you just create SOPs to make it as simple as possible. Right. And because that's a huge like objection people have to outsourcing. So if you're teaching people about outsourcing, yeah, I would just write that down. But I think that's a really good way to do it. You got to talk to the offer owner about it, see how they feel. But I would definitely like start including those, because then it just gets you, it's hard to sell a mastermind just to be like in a mastermind unless the person is a celebrity, right? If the person's like a celebrity in their niche, people will join the mastermind. But if you're not a celebrity in the niche, you have to become one, or you have to have these clearly defined outcomes, or you need to have members that are celebrities already, and you can leverage their presence. So if they have clients that are okay with doing that, that's a possibility. But you'll see people like Garrett White did that before. That'd be funny if that was your dude, but
no, it's not.
But he leverages. Yeah, he leverages, like when he got Dan Henry as a client or something, he leveraged shit out of that. Just talking about, he had like Dan Henry big on all his landing pages and stuff. And it's like, he was featuring him more than he was featuring himself. That might not have been Garrett White, actually. It might have been someone else. I can't remember. My buddy is like a closer for, so that's the only reason I think about that. Yeah. So those are like things to consider. And yeah, I think it's going to take a lot of testing because it's definitely going to be different from the traditional webinar format. I think the like bringing people on and sharing their experiences and all that is really good. And then, creating a clearly defined outcome to the best of your ability. And then the next part of it is this is a little bit out of your control, but you can make recommendations on it and it'll make you look really good. Is just tell them to get like SDRs or, what's more commonly known as setters. And have them just follow, like he needs to have on his opt-in form, he needs to collect data. And this is, you see it all the time in the software industry, but if you only want to sell to certain people, you need to collect that data up front. And then you can do outbound sales to them. It's really inbound since they filled out the form, but you can call them and set appointments. So, hey, it's something as simple as on the opt-in form, what's your current revenue range, right? And then with that, now you're getting really qualified lead flow that you can actually reach out to, and even if they don't watch the whole webinar or whatever, and they didn't buy or didn't do anything, you have their contact info. You can start emailing them, you can start texting them, you can start calling them, right?
That's smart. So my idea for that was having a setter call people for show up rate. Is that overkill, or would you just have them call, fuck the webinar, and then just try to book them on the appointment?
I would not necessarily call them for show ups. I would use text messaging. I'm obviously biased. I own a text message marketing company, but it's like the only reason I'm like apprehensive about that is because you don't know if they're qualified leads or not.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah. The webinar hasn't happened yet. I would give the webinar a chance to happen because you don't know if they're going to show up or not. Right. Text message them, get them to show up via that. And I don't know. Honestly, you could do it the way you said. I'm not necessarily against it. I just think if you're going to get them on the phone, you should just be trying to schedule like an actual sales call at that point, not just show up to our webinar, because it's a big ask. $6,000. You're going to have to get them on the phone regardless. Most people aren't going to want to buy it on the webinar. So I'm thinking like, okay, you get them on that webinar, and then from there, your call to action on the webinar is to book the call.
So the call to action on the webinar should be that's smart. Instead of trying to pitch it, here's the order link, book a call, and then should you even do a price reveal, or just kind of keep that?
Look, I'm like a copywriter at heart, and my answer is split test it. But my gut is I would split test it, but my gut is telling me that I would not do a price reveal. I would say what it's not. So, you go through and then you're like, look, it's not $25,000, not $10,000. Then you got to get on the call to see the price. You got to find a more eloquently way to word it. But people will be like, oh, it's $9,999, not $10,000. What works really well with successful business owners are case studies and statistics. So that's why I think, you show them the future them over and over, which is by bringing people in from the mastermind who they are going to be once they're through the mastermind, and do it in like a case study interview format. I would make it emotional, and I would also really build on a sense of community. Like that is the main focus here, is that we're going to help you get this transformation, and we're all going to do it together in this amazing community where everybody is winning, right?
I like that. So it's almost like if we bringing people live, I know we have to test it, because his vision, right, was, hey, maybe I can do this bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, get a new webinar, fill it up.
Well,
hey, you know what I'm saying?
You definitely can. You can do it. Like what I do is, dude, I'm not going to do a webinar like a million times, because sometimes you do it and it's just, man, it's so good. So I'll I record every single one I do, and if I find one that's just like crushing, man, like, dude, 'cause sometimes you're just on fire. You get like a 30, 40, 50% higher close rate, you know? Dude, I had a call where we had and this was a couple months ago. We had 300 people on, and we sold like 160 of them. They bought our 997 offer
Holy
live before
wow.
the replay or anything. So it's like ones like that where you're on fire. You're like, yeah, save that. And then what I'll do is I'll host the webinar live, but I just use the recording and then I come on MPNs. And I do kind of I try to make it seem like I'm live the whole time. So it's kind of like just not genuine in that sense, I will admit. But you know, I come on at the end and then we really get into the Q&A. And I have my camera off like the whole time on the webinar so that when I come on at the end, they have no idea that I wasn't live or whatever. But you know,
You just put a
that's
little
just an
timer on for like
idea.
an hour and a half. Yeah.
Those just
It's
ideas.
not bad. Okay.
But,
So
what?
here, you know, the sense I'm getting from you is that is there a party that feels like webinar might not even be the best way to sell this?
Well, I think that, you know, like I said originally, I do think that the sales call funnels they're really good. And it's just a matter of getting qualified leads, right? Which you can do up
Yeah.
front where when they fill up the form, right? And then I would use SDRs to follow up with people who we think are good fits that have not yet closed. And and then get on the phone with everyone who. So the SDRs follow up with people who didn't close on call or didn't show up. And then for the people who do show up on the calls, you just try to sell them. For anyone who's not a good fit, you cancel. But you have to talk to your client too, because their expectations are way out of whack, dude. Like 200 to 250 bucks is really good. Like, dude, if you're selling a $6,000 product, so let's say your close rate is fucking 10%, that means you
This guy's
still,
a
it only
former
costs
closer.
25. You know, like you're
So-
still doubling your money.
Bro, this guy was former sales director for Grant Cardone. Like he could close like anybody. Like so like the sales side, like his closing percentage is like near like 30, 35, 40%. Like so he just needs them on the phone, but he said that they gotta be qualified. That was his whole thing. Like, oh, so many unqualified people. I agree with you if you just put a little bit more filter
Well,
friction
you know,
in the beginning.
also it's like, it's kind of like, dude, it's gonna take time. You know, you can't just throw up the funnel once. I don't know how much testing you guys did, but it's like, dude, it's not realistic to throw up a book call funnel, change it a few times, and then all of a sudden it's working. Like for our funnels, dude, we're making changes. We've been running like our current funnel, we've been running it for about like 13 months now. It wasn't profitable on cold ads for the first 3 months. And it's just like we just kept testing and testing and testing.
Wow.
And then it blew up, you know? And it's just like a matter of doing it till you get it right. And that's why, dude, I feel bad for new brands without money too. Because like Roseanne, our new company, my partner is the most successful guy I know. He got ridiculous like amounts of money, more than anybody. And still like we're bootstrapped. We both put X amount of money in, and he's like, all right, we're not putting any more money in. We have to be super stingy and cheap. So I'm like, oh my God, we're just like slow growth in it, dude. Just one sales call at a time. I'm like cold outreach to people on Facebook that I haven't talked to in like 15 years. I'm like, yo, you still doing nothing? What's up? So like, I feel bad. Like I see the struggle of like trying to test things when you don't have a lot of money to spend.
He's
But-
trying to put down like 10K on ads, which that might be your testing budget. You know what I mean? Like,
at my main company, I think like what we usually start out with is like $15,000 a month for test, like $500 a day. Because when you're selling a high ticket product, you have to spend it all. It's just how it is, you know?
yeah,
Because a book call is so expensive. Like, dude, if you're spending $250 a day, or right, like if you're spending $500 a day, you're only getting 2 book calls like per day. And a typical closer is doing like 4 to 5 calls a day. So you're not even filling up one person's calendar. So
yeah.
like with higher ticket, and then even with like a 997 product, you're going to want to spend like $250 a day, right? And then yeah, my business partner is like $15 a day. Oh, all right. See what I can do,
That's
man.
tough.
I'm
Yes.
working it. Nah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
So is there like let's get back on topic here though. Is there anything else that you can think of regarding this particular funnel?
Yeah. I would love your thoughts on what do you think of this? I used to have it say more of like, hey, the three pillars that I use to build a seven-figure business. But then from what Alan was writing, like promising seven figures attracts a lot of beginners. So even though I still have seven figures in here, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that talking about like pain points that six-figure people are dealing with, it can hopefully disqualify um, the people
Yeah.
that
So
aren't a good fit.
in situations like these, what I like to do is just add a subheader above the headline, which is just like, look, if you're a business owner who's stuck at six figures, dot, 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 and then it goes straight to the headline, right?
Got you.
Just something like that. Not a perfect solution. Ideally, you do want to tap into the exact things that your um, client is feeling, but just calling them out directly in that pre-headline snaps them to attention. You want them to digest your main headline a little bit better, and help them realize that, because what you're doing is you're helping them view the headline through a different lens, right? Because if they don't know that it's only for six-figure business owners, they might think like, oh, well, it's some get rich thing for a beginner. But when you say,
Right.
oh, it's for a six-figure business owner, right? Then they're going to digest it a different way. And I'm sure you've been there where it's like you read content or you saw something, 10 years ago and it wasn't that impactful on you and you were like, eh. And then you
Mhm.
reread it again at a time in your life where it made more sense for you. And you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Why didn't I think this was good, right? And that's like what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to make it so they understand right now that, hey, this is actually applicable to you right now.
Sweet.
So it's just like
Sweet.
that little bit of clarity.
That makes total sense. And then on that page, if you said name, email, phone number,
Revenue
would you
level, like I would do a drop
probably
down
add
with,
that? Yeah.
make it a drop down where they can't type their own thing in. They have to pick one. This is going to well, I say probably, it could lower conversion rates, but your client says they want more qualified leads. And I'm thinking like, if he sounds like he's a pretty sales savvy guy, so I imagine it's a sales driven organization, and this is the kind of data you want, so you can have your setters go out there and contact these people, and you're building a list that you can come back to, and you'll know exactly who you're. I would just explain that part to the client and be like, look, this can stay, this can go, this is up to you, right? But here's the thought behind collecting this on the front end.
Sweet. I love that. Let me go through some of these points and then let's see, just to confirm. I was thinking telling him to do it at 7 p.m. at night. I think you also mentioned that in
Yeah, 7 and 8
Discord.
p.m. It's all good.
Cool, 7 8 p.m. Cool, this all seems fine. And then he worked for another company before, so I'm asking for some resources. On your webinars, is this kind of what you're seeing? I haven't promoted a webinar in like a year and a half, so I don't know what the costs are now. Is
Yep,
10 to 20
that-
kind of the range?
That's exactly in line with what we're seeing right now on
Okay.
YouTube ads. I can't speak for other platforms.
Okay. Cool. And then I guess I have two main questions. You've answered a lot of it. This is what I was thinking. I know I've read about this where people opt in and thank you page. There's like a video, and a lot of times people give you like homework.
Yep.
Have you tested that? Would you recommend that? That he adds that?
Yeah, it depends on like the assets your client has. Do they have a podcast by chance?
They do.
So what you're going to want to do then is have them like go digest all the podcast content. You're going to want to include like their best podcast video or whatever on that thank you page, and then have links to check out the rest of it. And then also when you're sending them the thank you for registering email, make sure they see that, or there's links for the podcast in there too. And dude, this is like a hack right here that we do that really will increase the show up rate. But what you're going to want to do is, you set your conversion pixel for Facebook, YouTube, whatever on that thank you page, right? And then what you're going to do is run reach ads to every single person who hits that thank you page with a whole bunch of stuff. But you're going to want to do case studies. So case studies for people who were in a similar position to the people we want to attract, right? And we've elevated. So just quick case studies, any features that the client has, like social proof, right? Which is like, I was like, hey, check out this article I was just featured in on like entrepreneur.com or whatever. And then also best podcast episodes. Now, the reason that we're doing reach ads is because we're not actually trying to get link clicks. We're not actually trying to get conversions. What we're trying to get right now is frequency and brand presence. We want the clients who just signed up that probably never heard of your client to see him again and again and again and again in multiple different ways. Because with reach ads, you can set frequency caps. So what you can say is, hey, I want everyone who hit my thank you page to see each of these ads 5 times each. So then you said, there's like 10 ads total, right? And the ads can be really cheap. You only need to do like $3 or $4 or $5 a day per ad because the audience is so small and they're reach ads. Reach ads are really cheap to run. And what's happening is they see the client over and over again. They see the case studies and they're like, oh yeah, I want to see what this guy's got going on. This is gold, dude. I've never seen anyone else doing this or talking about this, but it is so powerful.
Heck yeah. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. So
I think we actually
definitely-
talked about that in the Rowdy Boys too. It's nice.
No,
And then-
let me-
Dude, but here's like the cool thing is when you do that, those reach ads, like I told you about, every time I do those and I go all out, right when the webinar starts, I'm like, all right, so who's tired of seeing my shit? Like, give me a 4 in the chat if you've just seen 1,000 ads from me and all different kinds of content. And everyone's like, 4 for 4. I feel like I know you so well already. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hell yeah, it worked,
That's
baby.
awesome.
Let's go.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna implement that. And I guess my last question, man, and then
Yeah, if you
I'll
want
get
to share
out
your
of
screen
here.
again too, if it was something on there,
Yeah.
because stop.
Let me do that. What do you recommend for like the webinar? I put down Zoom webinar. I don't
Yeah.
know if there's like a better or I
Nah,
don't
Zoom's
want to
good, man.
overcomplicate it with the tech. Okay.
Yeah, we switched to Zoom. Like I did go to webinar the other day because we did an affiliate promo. So they were promoting us, so we used their webinar room. It was on GoToWebinar. I was like, oh God. I will say though that GoToWebinar's webinar quality is higher than Zoom's. But Zoom is just so convenient. It's so good. It works. I used to use
Everybody knows how
Demio.
to use it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everybody in the world because of COVID and being like locked at home or whatever. Everyone knows how to use it now. So it's chill.
Sweet. Sweet. Cool. That's pretty much everything. Is there anything else maybe that I should write down or know or
Um,
I don't know, anything I haven't asked?
no, I mean, I would just also, ensure this is like separate outside of everything, but just ensuring that your client has their expectations right. Like I personally, that's a hard discussion to make because they probably don't want to hear it. But it's like, dude, $250 per phone call is pretty good. So I would just bring that
That's
up
pretty
again
good.
because like a webinar or whatever, it's not a magic fix, right? Like they're still going to be seeing stuff in that range. Or maybe not, maybe it's amazing, but it's like, it's probably missing. So,
Cool.
all that being said, dude, pleasure talking to you. Edwin, if you ever need help
100%.
anytime, man, you can hit me up. I'm down. I'm an open book. All I ask is that if anyone ever needs an SMS platform, you recommend Roseanne, and then it's worth it. And then plus just helping you is like, dude, I want to help others. So anything I can do for you, man, I'm here.
Thank you, bro. I will 100% do that. I'll tell everybody about Roseanne and yeah,
Let's
thank
go.
you so much for hopping on, giving me all this game.